I think one thing that was overwhelming for us when Colin came home was the difference in food from what, he would eat in Haiti and what I would try to feed him. When I would visit him at the hotel, we would have spaghetti, and he would love spaghetti. So I thought, oh, that's an easy one. Well, apparently the way I make spaghetti is different than they make it there, because every time I fed him, he would throw it up like 3 minutes later. And it was, so I tried, just bland foods, and he would still get sick. So, there was a lot of adjusting to, what we eat here, and foods that were gentle on his stomach, and that it was hard for me not to get frustrated, although I did get really, really good at cleaning out car seats, because it seemed like every time he'd throw up, he would do it in the car, and I was like, oh goodness. But it was hard for me. I felt like I was a bad mom, because every time I fed my kid, he threw up, and it just didn't. So that was a big adjustment for me.
I remember needing to be aware of situations that are loud or large. Lots of people was not a happy thing for Nathan or Sophie, either one of them. And I think it goes back to being in such a small space with so many children. If we're out in a crowd and there's a baby crying somewhere, they both pick up on it, and they just tune in on that, because there was just so much of that in the orphanage. It's not a comfortable space for them to be in. So we've had situations even at church where you'd think that church is more quiet, but there's a lot of little background noise, and they pick up on all of that. And it's just being around a lot of people in that circumstance was difficult for both of them at first. So I remember that.
I was going to say, I think as a mom, most adoptive parents have waited a really long time, and so you just want to shower those kids with everything, whether it's wonderful treats or, toys. And my first 3 that I adopted, we adopted when they were babies, infants. So it was kind of a gradual thing. But our last little girl was 3, and boy, everybody was so thrilled to have her. So everybody wanted to come see her, and everybody was giving her presents. And I think, again, just that flood of stuff was kind of confusing for her and not comforting. And so we had to remember maybe just to have 1 or 2 things, because that's all she had in the orphanage. I think there was a group of kids who played in one room, and there were maybe 8 broken, crappy toys that were there every single day, and that's where they were set. But whether I think that's a horrible situation or not, that's what they know, and that's what's comforting. And I had to keep reminding myself, not what is it that I think I would love to give her or she would love, but what would be comforting to her. And so smaller spaces, maybe less of things, is something I had to keep kind of reminding myself, and that seemed more comforting to her.
I remember reading a lot about this beforehand, and so I did have the recipes. We got so sick of eating Haitian food at first, and I'm a little bit of a veggie Nazi, and I was convinced that they have to be introduced to these things. But when they don't even like a banana, right, they've never had anything. Yes. People think that just because a kid's been hungry, that they're going to eat anything that you give them, and that is so not true. They are not used to anything except for the 3 flavors that they are used to. And so it was a very specific bean and rice dish that they wanted, not any bean and rice dish. And even bananas were gross. The only thing they really liked outside of the beans and rice was, I think luckily they liked an avocado, and they liked, okay, and they liked, they would eat nuts, and I'm a kind of a healthy person, so, but the first time I made them, we started from the beginning. They're older. Yeah. We started from the very beginning saying you have to have 1 bite of everything. And it was a small bite at first. And one of them made herself throw up after the first small bite of broccoli. But she's a smart girl, so she knew what she was doing. And so I actually did not let that deter me. And I know that the books were saying, be careful to not make food an issue. But when you find your kid scooping sugar out of the pantry with a spoon, you realize that you have to do a little bit more controlling. And so all the sugar disappeared. And they are really good eaters now. They all eat their vegetables now. They all eat everything. And I don't make them eat really weird, salads were hard, dressing's weird, but they'll have a little. And I think that was overwhelming for them to have different food, and I really tried to make it so that it was the same, because that's every day. That was really hard for me, because I don't eat greasy chicken with the bone.
Right.
Like, and they would eat the bone.
I need the bone.
And I just had to like let that happen for about the first 4 months, and then pretty soon I'm like, you might not want to eat the bone when we're at grandma's house, and we just kind of started doing that. But the other thing I read that was overwhelming was bedrooms and stuff, and so we very much simplified their bedroom. I thought it was super simple, and in the end they still just wanted to sleep together on the floor. So they slept together on the floor for a couple months, and it's fine. Their beds were there for them to sit on if they wanted, but they slept on the floor.
That was one thing I wasn't really prepared for. I don't know why, but because of the orphanage situation that he was in, he was used to sleeping with so many different people that first week he would reach his hands out like in his sleep, and if I wasn't there to grab it, to comfort, there is somebody else here, it would wake him up, and he would wake up scared, and that was something that I was not quite prepared for. So.
And you mentioned the food. I remember Nathan, as he got his language skills up, I had been giving him yogurt in the morning. And one day he told me that he had eaten a bug. And I said, you didn't eat a bug. The next day, fed him blueberry yogurt. And he, first big bite with the blueberry in it, he's like, it's a bug. And he just had no idea what I was feeding him, right? But from his perspective, he thought that I was feeding him bugs in yogurt. But I also was remembering at the airport, we had all these family members that had been, praying him home for 2.5 years. And so everybody wanted to come and, touch on him. And, it was overwhelming for him. That was very, very scary after.
I think my kids might have been nervous about that too, but I had shown them, they're older, I showed them lots of pictures. We had videos. On the way home, we had videos on our DVD of every single family member saying hi to them.
That's a good idea.
And I had actually gotten someone to translate the Creole of what they were saying, so I had captions underneath. So they had a book, and we would go through, and when we got home, pictures of the family all hung, because we have a lot of family, they all live here. But I did not do that with all the people at church. And the people at church knew that they had been coming for a long time too. So everyone at church felt like they know them.
Right, yes.
So I was not prepared for church to be the worst experience that we had since coming home. That was the worst. I thought both girls wanted to run screaming from the church house after that day.
Everyone feels like there's this sense of accomplishments for them too, because
we're so excited to meet you, and they're like,
who are you?
Yeah.
Well, and
Let's sing a welcome song.
There is definitely a sense of, I can love this child to any, what is it? Just if I love them, they will be healed and made well. And so even at church, boy, we will just pour this love into this child. And our love means in their face and hugging them and giving them things. And, that love is too much, and it's probably good to realize. But I did want to tell one cute thing. A lot of times we're prepared for all, these difficult things, especially if the children are older. But when Armia came, actually she was just a few days shy of 3. So I had her sitting on this little chair, and whatever, I can't even remember what we had for dinner that night. But my kids are we try to work with them. They're kind of lazy, a little bit slobs, and anyway, little Mia hops down. She gathers up all of her silverware and everything, runs it over. She can barely reach the sink, puts it up there, and is trying with her hand to wash it. I'm like, honey, you got to teach these other kids, put them in line. But so that was a nice thing she came with. She had incredible work ethic.
That's great. That's great.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
One thing that was overwhelming for both of us, and I don't know if you had the same experience, but because of where Colin was born, he didn't have any immunizations. So when we first came home, a lot of our time was spent in doctor's offices where he would be getting a shot every 2 weeks.
All
And
the
he
time.
got to the point where we would just pull into the parking lot and he'd start to cry because he knew that, as soon as he walked in that door, someone was going to poke him with something. And that was hard. We had to, explain that, that this was to keep you well, but where he was still trying to learn a new language.
It didn't make
It
sense
didn't
either.
make any sense. All he knew was that mommy was taking him somewhere where somebody was going to jab him with a needle, and that was difficult for us. And his stomach, just the parasites
Yes,
which I'm sure
all
that
bugs.
you know. Yeah, that was tough too.
We haven't
to
even
get
addressed
those.
that issue yet because we were so many shots and so many dentists and so many doctors at the beginning that we've waited. But my kids thought that we got ice cream every day at McDonald's because every time something would happen, they'd get poked or go to a doctor or their teeth got pulled. We would bring them to ice cream. It took like 4 months to get through all those appointments and stuff. And all of a sudden they noticed we weren't going to ice cream anymore. And I had to explain to them, well, that was a special, you guys were getting poked and there was swimming lessons to be had. And there's just so many things that they had to do in the beginning. And I would always follow it up. Well, you have to balance out the good. And
Right.
so we did. But as a health nut, I was kind of not liking feeding them like a couple scoops of, a big huge cone of McDonald's ice cream every day. Every day we went every day.